According to a study by Dr. Julian De Silva at the London-based Center for Advanced Facial Cosmetic and Plastic Surgery, this is the perfect female face.
Fallacy. Beauty is not subjective. That's
No,
why
it's not. It's
that's why we
objective,
have
brother.
that's why we have the golden ratio, the Fibonacci
right.
equation.
That's right.
You can look at
That's
facial
right.
symmetry and see that
That's right.
beautiful people, you can map their facial structure, and it goes to a mathematical calculation.
Oh yeah.
Beauty is universal. And the
Yep.
thing is, we're talking about black women. They are on the opposite end of the spectrum on all ranks. Facial symmetry, even to the way to black.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man? Bro, I'm out, man. That nigga's tripping.
What's up, good people? It's the Poor Black Man. I respect your time and I respect your intelligence. This video is a follow-up to the statements made by Mr. Kevin Samuels. And this is going to be a very comprehensive video to challenge the notion that black women are the most unattractive women based on the golden ratio. That's what this video is about. I am going to start with a little bit of history on data and science and how, you know, these things have been less than favorable to black people, used as a tool to further, marginalize our community. Then I will go into what he was referencing, what Kevin Samuels was referencing when he said that black women are the most unattractive according to the golden ratio. I am going to introduce you to the author who wrote that and tell you what the science community, how they responded to that article and what happened to him after he wrote it. Then we are going to get into a real, verified, peer-reviewed, scientific brief research to tell you whether or not the claims that black women are unattractive based on the golden ratio, whether or not that's factual. All right, let's get into it. Let me look at this article from the Association of American Medical Colleges. According to the Association of American Medical Colleges, all right, 40% of first and second year medical students endorse the belief that black people's skin is thicker than white people's. This came from 2016. 40% of first and second year medical students, these are students who are about to be doctors, they endorse the belief that black people's skin is thicker than white people's. Let me read another excerpt. It says, half of the white medical trainees believe such myths as black people having thicker skin or less sensitive nerve endings than white people. An expert looks at how these false notions and hidden biases fuel inadequate treatment of minorities' pain. So what they're saying is, if you are in pain and receiving medical treatment, these people may be reluctant to give you pain medication based on implicit bias. These educated doctors actually think that black people can endure more pain because of our skin and for other factors. You see, when we talk about racist police officers and trying to rid the police force of racism, we don't think about all of the other areas where racism impacts black people. Imagine having a racist doctor. Imagine delivering a child as a woman, experiencing pain, bleeding. How many times have we seen black women die while giving birth? There's data on that if you're willing to look into it. Okay, so let's just start right here. This racism shit is real. Okay? And these are so-called educated people who believe that not only black people are inferior, but we can endure more pain. Ain't that crazy? Now, you may or may not know that modern gynecology came from a gentleman who experimented on enslaved black women. He did experimental procedures on enslaved black women without anesthesia. So when women go and get a pap smear, that all came from enslaved black women being used as guinea pigs, being operated on without anesthesia, so that they could figure out how to do gynecology. Did you know that? Okay. Let's get into these claims that black women are the most unattractive. Let's get into it. Okay. So a gentleman by the name of Satoshi Kawanza, who is a psychologist, an evolutionary psychologist, he wrote an article in 2011, and it was titled, "Why Are Black Women Less Physically Attractive Than Other Women?" As you can imagine, this article caused a firestorm in the black community, in other allied communities, but also in the science community. Why? Because the burden of proof is higher when you are making these scientific claims. And he did not prove anything in his article. So much that he was disciplined by his employer, the university where he worked. And the article was taken down almost immediately. And let me say something. This gentleman has a history of posting, inflammatory articles like this. You may wonder, well, how the hell did this thing get published? If there should be an editorial process. Well, he did not post it in a peer-reviewed journal. All right. And I hope I'm speaking English. A peer-reviewed journal is a scholarly source. If you went to college or ever done any research papers, your professor may have required you to use only scholarly sources. So he posted it in a non-peer-reviewed journal blog, and that is not considered, a scholarly source. So his fellow colleagues did not have to review his work before it was posted. So you have people gravitating to what he wrote and using that as a, hey, gotcha, I told you black women are ugly, is written right here. That's one thing about the internet in this YouTube community. People will cherry pick and look for stuff to substantiate their arguments. Motherfuckers will get on here and tell you that black women are ugly and then dive down deep to find somebody who wrote some shit that justifies it. Okay? But it was disproven and his study was not scientific. Let me tell you what happened to him. His school, he was admonished by the London School of Economics, and in a statement, he said, and I quote, he said, "Some of my arguments may have been flawed and not supported by available evidence." His employer, the London School of Economics, they barred him from publishing in non-peer-reviewed publications for 1 year. And they will not permit him to teach compulsory courses during the current academic year. So he was not allowed to teach anymore during that academic year, and he was barred from publishing in non-peer-reviewed publications. So he could still publish, but it had to be peer-reviewed. Okay? Now, let's get into this science. The golden ratio is and was used for in plastic surgery. If a surgeon, is trying to construct the perfect face, they I don't know if they're currently doing this, but many would use the golden ratio to try to construct the perfect face. Because when people go and get plastic surgery, they want to come out beautiful. You know, they want to go under the knife and come out looking better. So how do we make them look better? A lot of surgeons were using the golden ratio so that people would, improve their beauty. All right. So this research is asking, what are the proportions of African Caribbean faces? What are the ideal ratios? And how does that compare with the golden proportion and perceptions of attractiveness? These are the questions that are answered in this research. I am going to give you their method of research and give you the conclusion that they drew from their research. Okay? Now, in short, they took 40 photographs. They took 40 photographs of male and female black models, professional models. 40 photographs. They gave them to observers and they asked them to rank the photographs 1 to 10. 1 being unattractive, 10 being the most attractive, right? From that, they took the best graded photos, only the ones who were deemed the most attractive, and compared them with the least graded photographs. All of the faces were calculated in proportion and compared to the golden ratio. What did they find? What they said was, our results contradict findings from previous literature that illustrate that attractive faces tend to conform with the golden ratio compared to non-attractive faces. Let me repeat. Our results contradict findings from previous literature that illustrate that attractive faces tend to conform with the golden ratio compared to non-attractive ones. All right, let me go further. In this research, and I quote, in one study, Brazilian women were initially evaluated according to their facial attractiveness, and then they were compared to the golden proportion. And no correlation was found between perception of beauty and the golden proportion. They took Brazilian women and ranked them according to their attractiveness, and then they ranked them according to the golden proportion. There was no correlation. Niggas go to Brazil and pay for pussy because those women are beautiful and they only charge $25. Come on now. Let me take it a step further. They also said, to the best of the author's knowledge, this is the first study to examine the correlation of facial attractiveness and the golden proportion in a black population. This was the first time. As all studies that have been carried out were focused on Caucasian populations. So what we have is a Caucasian standard of beauty, and you are applying that to black people. It does not work. So if you prefer Caucasian women, then maybe the golden ratio is what you're looking for. But if you are a plastic surgeon and you're doing surgery on a black person, you cannot use the golden proportion because it does not work with black people. None of the Brazilian women who were labeled attractive fit the golden proportion. So you gonna sit here and tell me that these pale-faced white women are more beautiful than these Brazilian women? Is that what we doing? I mean, that goes back to beauty is subjective. I cannot tell you what is beautiful to you. You get to decide. Beauty is not universal. And this golden proportion shit, that's just, a European standard of beauty based on some motherfucking lines and shit. The fuck out of here. The link to the research is in the description. You can review it and come back if you want to have a discussion. But as it relates to attractiveness, the attractiveness of black women and the golden proportion, that's bullshit. You see, I've been contacted by a few black YouTubers, men in the manosphere, asking me to debate. I spent a lot of years in college, undergrad, grad school. If we are going to have this discussion, it has to be rooted in data, research, prove it. You see, when men get on the internet and they say, only black women do this, I respond and say, prove it. When people say only black men do this, I'm going to respond and say, prove it. Holding people accountable for what they say. There are black men who don't like black women, and there are black women who don't like black men. And that's okay. But when people get online and start spewing, hateful rhetoric and claim that it's backed up by science, nigga, you gonna need receipts. If what you say is backed by science, you have to show receipts. Motherfuckers get on the internet, put on a suit, rent a car, and y'all believe everything they say. It's the poor black man. I respect your time. I respect your intelligence. I'll see y'all on the next one. Drop a comment, drop a like, hit subscribe. We out.